Welcome to r/payback. Last Saturday night, my husband and I went to a friend's birthday party. It was one of those trendy rooftop events, fairy lights strung along the railings, music playing just loud enough to dance but soft enough to talk, and drinks flowing like it was everyone's first weekend off in months. The view of the city skyline was breathtaking, the air crisp and cool. On the surface, everything looked perfect. We were laughing, mingling, pretending to be carefree, but underneath the buzz of the night, I felt something off. A tension between us that hadn't fully gone away in weeks. He'd been acting strange lately. Not distant exactly, but unpredictable. Like he was always one step ahead of where the conversation was going, waiting to twist it into a joke that never quite landed. Still, I told myself not to make a big deal out of it. It was just a night out. Or so I thought. We've been married for 4 years, and for a while, things were great. We traveled, had late-night talks, and laughed until our stomachs hurt. But over the past year, something shifted. Fights became more frequent. He'd brush off my concerns as too sensitive or overthinking. He had a way of joking about serious things, his job, our finances, even our arguments, like they were all just scenes in a sitcom. But it was his humor that started to worry me. It went from light sarcasm to something darker. He liked to play pranks, small ones at first, like hiding my phone or faking an injury, but they started escalating. Once, he popped a balloon behind my head while I was pouring coffee. I spilled it all over myself and nearly dropped the pot. He laughed for 10 minutes. I didn't. I told him I didn't like being scared or startled like that. He shrugged and said, "It's just who I am. Don't take everything so seriously." I wanted to believe he meant no harm, that he just didn't realize where the line was. But that night on the roof, that's when I found out just how far past the line he was willing to go. We arrived just after 8 p.m. The rooftop was already glowing with golden lights and scattered groups of friends sipping cocktails, the city stretching out behind them like a postcard. It was the kind of place people posted about. Sleek bar setup, cozy lounge corners, and a dance floor that had just enough bounce to it to make everyone feel cool. I smiled and waved to our host, hugging a few people I hadn't seen in months. My husband grabbed us drinks, rum and Coke for him, something sweet and fizzy for me, and we found a spot near the edge where we could lean against the ledge and talk. That ledge. It was made of thick concrete, waist-high, but with nothing beyond it except air. Below us? 8 stories straight down to the street. He leaned over casually and made a joke about how he could see our car from up there. Then he said, "I wonder what it feels like to fall from this height," with that half-smile that never quite reached his eyes. I laughed nervously and changed the subject, but in the back of my mind, something clicked. Not fear exactly, not yet, but that gut feeling that whispers, "This isn't funny anymore." After a while, my husband started making more comments about the height. At first, they sounded like jokes. "Hey, if I fell from here, would I survive?" Or, "Bet you couldn't jump off and land safely." People nearby chuckled nervously, but the laughter felt forced. I noticed some guests glancing at each other, clearly uncomfortable. Even our host frowned when my husband joked about how easy it would be to say goodbye from the ledge. I tried to ignore it, hoping he'd stop. I didn't want to ruin the night, and I reminded myself he often made edgy jokes. But every time he made one of those comments, a knot grew tighter in my stomach. It felt different this time. Darker, less playful. The more he talked about the ledge and falling, the more people started shifting away or changing the subject. Even I was beginning to feel uneasy. I took a deep breath and nudged him, whispering, "Hey, maybe stop with those jokes. It's making everyone uncomfortable." He just smirked and said, "Relax. It's all in good fun. But his eyes looked sharp, almost daring, like he was testing me to see how far I'd let him go. Then suddenly, without warning, he grabbed my arm and pulled me toward the edge. I laughed nervously, thinking he was just being silly, the kind of goofy thing he sometimes did to surprise me. "Hey, what are you doing?" I asked, trying to pull back but also smiling because I thought this was another prank. He didn't answer. Instead, he wrapped his arms around me and lifted me up. I gasped as I felt my feet leave the ground, and for a split second I was laughing, trying to convince myself it was all a joke. But then he started walking closer and closer to the edge of the rooftop. My smile faltered. "Wait, stop," I said, panic creeping into my voice. "This isn't funny anymore. Put me down." One day, she spotted a folder labeled with his ex's name. Inside were saved messages, pictures, and even some old emails, things that felt too personal to just be friends. When Emily asked Jake about it, he brushed it off as nostalgia, but his eyes avoided hers. His mood shifted instantly, growing tense and distant. The more Emily pushed to understand, the more Jake shut down. Whenever she tried to talk about his ex, he'd get defensive or quickly change the subject. She started to feel like she was walking on eggshells around him. The man she loved, who used to be open and caring, was now a stranger guarded by walls she couldn't break through. One night, Emily accidentally overheard Jake talking quietly on the phone. His voice cracked as he spoke, something she had never heard before. The words were soft, almost pleading, and they crushed her heart. She realized then that Jake's connection to his ex wasn't just a harmless friendship. It was something deeper, something emotional and unresolved. Emily's thoughts raced. Was she just a placeholder while Jake was still holding on to someone else? The thought was unbearable. She felt trapped in a love triangle where one of the lovers was a ghost, haunting their relationship and stealing away the trust they once had. The emotional tension was suffocating. Every day felt like a battle between hope and despair. Emily wanted to believe Jake could move on, but his actions said otherwise. She questioned everything, her worth, their future, and whether love was enough to overcome the shadows of the past. After weeks of struggling with her doubts, Emily finally decided she had to confront Jake. She couldn't carry the weight of uncertainty any longer. One quiet evening, she sat him down gently, choosing her words carefully. "Jake, I need to talk about something that's been bothering me. It's about your ex." Jake's face tightened. For a moment, there was silence. Emily felt her heart pounding, unsure of what would come next. He took a deep breath and said, "Emily, there's nothing going on. We're just friends, I promise. You have nothing to worry about." His voice was calm, but there was a flicker of defensiveness in his eyes. Emily pressed on, explaining how his secretive behavior and late-night phone use made her feel. She told him about the messages and photos she had seen and how it hurt her deeply. Jake listened, but didn't respond much, his arms crossed, avoiding eye contact. When Emily asked him if he still had feelings for his ex, Jake's face hardened. "I don't." "You have to trust me," he said firmly. But Emily wasn't sure if he was convincing himself as much as her. The conversation ended with Jake growing distant, retreating into himself. The openness they once shared felt shattered, replaced by a wall of denial and silence. Emily's anxiety grew worse, and the doubt inside her gnawed away at any hope she had left. The question hung heavy in the air. Would Jake ever admit the truth? Or would he keep hiding behind lies and excuses, leaving Emily to face this painful uncertainty alone? It was late one night when Emily woke up to a sound she hadn't expected. The soft, broken sobs coming from the living room. She quietly got out of bed and followed the noise, finding Jake sitting alone on the couch, his head in his hands, trembling. For a moment, Emily just watched, her heart aching for the man she thought she knew. She gently sat beside him, unsure if she should speak or just be there. Finally, Jake looked up, his eyes red and glassy. I don't know what to do anymore, he admitted, his voice cracking. I thought I was over her. I told myself that so many times, but the truth is, I'm still tied to her somehow. Emily felt a wave of betrayal wash over her. How could he carry this hidden weight all this time? But beneath the pain was something else, a raw vulnerability she hadn't seen before. She swallowed her hurt and reached out to hold his hand. Jake, I'm here. I want to understand, she said softly. But you have to be honest with me. Where do your feelings really lie? He looked away, struggling for words. I'm confused. Part of me loves you, truly loves you, but another part keeps getting pulled back to her. It's like I'm living in two places at once, and I'm tearing myself apart. Emily's mind raced. Was this heartbreak or something deeper? Could love survive when the past still haunted the present? She didn't know if she could forgive him yet, but she wanted to try. The night stretched on with tears and silence, two hearts trying to find a way through the pain. The question lingered in the air like a shadow. Would she be able to forgive him and rebuild their trust, or was this the beginning of the end? Days passed, and Emily tried to push the painful conversations aside. Then, one morning, Jake surprised her completely. He was in the kitchen, making breakfast, the smell of coffee and pancakes filling the air. On the table, right in the middle, was a small velvet box. Emily's heart skipped a beat before she even opened it. Jake looked at her nervously. Emily, these last 3 years with you have been the best adventure of my life. I want to keep making new memories together. Will you marry me? Shock and confusion swirled inside Emily. Part of her wanted to say yes immediately. Wasn't this what she had dreamed of? But another part hesitated. Was this proposal an attempt to fix the past, or was it a genuine promise of the future? Her mind raced with doubt. Could she trust Jake's love after everything? Did she want to build a life with someone still tangled in old wounds? Emily's hands trembled as she held the ring. The moment was beautiful, but heavy with uncertainty. She looked into Jake's eyes, searching for the answer to a question she wasn't ready to ask aloud. The suspense hung thick in the air. Was this the start of a new chapter filled with hope, or just another twist in a story shadowed by heartbreak? Emily couldn't shake the uneasy feeling growing inside her. One evening, when Jake was out, she found herself drawn to his laptop sitting on the kitchen counter. She hesitated. This felt like crossing a line, but the need for answers was stronger. As she sifted through folders, a hidden document caught her eye. Opening it, she froze. It was a long, emotional message Jake had written to his ex, the same one he had promised he'd moved on from. The words were raw and honest. How he had waited for her all these years, how he believed they were meant to be together, how no one else could compare. Emily's heart shattered. He hadn't just been nostalgic, he had been holding on to hope, all while building a life with her. The betrayal cut deeper than she had imagined. When Jake returned, Emily confronted him, voice trembling but firm. Why didn't you tell me? Why keep this from me for so long? Jake's face darkened, his defenses rising. You don't understand. I was trying to protect you and myself. She was a huge part of my life. This isn't protection. It's betrayal. I'm not here to be your second choice, Jake. I can't be the consolation prize for your past. The argument spiraled into pain and frustration, the walls of their relationship cracking under the weight of truth. Emily realized she deserved more: respect, honesty, and a love free from ghosts. With tears streaming, she made her decision. She loved him once, but she couldn't live in a shadow. "I'm done," she said quietly. "I need to choose myself." Breaking up wasn't easy, and it wasn't quiet. Jake couldn't let go. His calls and messages flooded Emily's phone. Pleas, apologies, desperate attempts to explain or win her back. Meanwhile, rumors began to spread in their shared social circle, fueled by Jake's erratic behavior. Some whispered that Emily had stolen from him when she moved out. Others questioned her character. The weight of the drama felt suffocating. But Emily stood firm. She leaned on her family and close friends who reminded her of her worth. She focused on healing, rediscovering herself outside the relationship that had drained her. Every day was a step forward, a mixture of pain and hope. She started new hobbies, reconnected with old passions, and found strength in the quiet moments alone. Though the future was uncertain, Emily knew this much: she wouldn't settle for less than she deserved. The past was behind her, and now it was time to rebuild a life on her own terms. The question remained: how would she move on from a love that had held her captive for so long? The answer was waiting, just out of reach, in the next chapter of her story. Looking back, Emily realizes how many signs she overlooked. Little moments that seemed innocent but were really red flags. The constant comparisons, the secret messages, the emotional distance, masked as nostalgia. She wishes she had trusted her instincts sooner, but she knows now that healing takes time and courage. Through this painful journey, Emily has learned to value her self-respect above all else. She understands the importance of setting firm boundaries and refusing to settle for anything less than honest love and mutual respect. No relationship should make you feel like you're competing with a ghost from the past. Emily hopes her story will help others caught in similar struggles. If you feel uneasy or hurt by someone you love, don't ignore those feelings. Speak up, seek support, and remember that your worth is not defined by someone else's unresolved past. She's taking each day as it comes, building a new life grounded in hope and self-love. The scars remain, but they are reminders of her strength, not her weakness. Emily ends her story with a message of hope. No matter how lost or trapped you feel, there's always a way forward. Healing is possible, and a better future awaits you beyond the pain. Thank you all for listening and sharing this journey with me. Your support has meant the world. If you've ever faced something similar or have advice, please share your stories. This community is a safe place for healing and understanding. I'll leave you with a question to think about. When does love become obsession? And how do we find the courage to let go and protect our own hearts? Remember, you're not alone, and sometimes the hardest step is choosing yourself. That wraps up today's episode of r/Payback. If you enjoyed the ride, don't forget to subscribe for more epic stories.